Why did you get fired?
I gave the fry guy an alcoholic beverage from the bar in a kid's cup. He used to hook me up with coconut shrimp and fiesta rolls. They fired both of us, LOL. I wonder how Jammer is doing nowadays. My manager kept losing my class schedule. Worked at a Subway. I had class 2 days a week. Several times he put me on those days anyway. I gave him multiple copies every time. Owner took me off the schedule for calling out too much. When I showed the owner proof, he said it was too late and they already hired someone else. This was 12 years ago. I'm still mad. I always hated the taken off the schedule bull. Just fire me officially instead of taking the coward's route. This happened to me as well when I did not tell the general manager about a floor manager switching a product display TV to football one day. To be clear, she asked me, "Why did you not tell me?" So she already knew it happened and was mad that I did not say anything. So I got taken off the schedule because the other manager did something against policy and I did not narc. A business I went to long ago was hiring and I got the job. Right after I signed all the paperwork, the department manager comes in and asks who I am. I tell him I was just hired as a temp. Manger says he never authorized any hiring and fired both me and my boss on the spot. I did not work for this company at all, and they fired me. I had a similar experience. I was interviewing for a sales position, and I made it all the way up the ladder through 3 different managers to the advertising director. Had a great interview. He told me I would be the future of this industry, shook my hand, led me to the HR manager's office, clapped me on the back and said to her, "We're hiring him. Start the paperwork and I'll see you Monday." She was pregnant, tired, and annoyed. She looked at me with disgust and said, "We eliminated that position yesterday. We're not hiring anyone." I asked if the director or managers knew that. She said they should. What followed was an embarrassing 2 weeks of promises that they would make a spot for me and weak apologies from the hiring managers. Oof. Hired and fired within seconds. I was denied a raise by HR after consistently working 60 to 70 hours weeks, and my VP, who had supported and requested the raise for me, told me to stop putting in the extra time, work my 40, and spend that extra time applying to new jobs. Within a month, a meeting was called to mutually part ways because my work wasn't getting done. I was gratified to learn that they had to hire 2 people to do my job after I left. Edit. Sucks to see how much this resonates with people who have been in a similar situation. I left this job back in 2015, thankfully. The VP is no longer there either, and good for him. I hear this story often in r/IT career questions. https://www.reddit.com/r/IT career questions. It's weird, but I guess in IT there aren't always logistical blocks like some other careers. Payroll might be done for our current period, but enhancements to the payroll software can continue ad nauseum. What's sad is that most of these stories skip the part where their VP needs to be pushing for you to justify this level of effort. The second he recognized he didn't have the power to get you what he deserved, he said don't give it to him for free, and get yourself what you can anywhere. That's a rare level of grace now. I got fired once for putting in my 2-week notice. The only other time I've gotten fired was working for a trade company during the first week. I was a supervisor, and there was a second supervisor on site. I got a call that my wife had been rushed to the hospital, which was literally less than a mile away. I asked the other supervisor if I could go to attend to her, and he said, "Sure, no problem. I've got things here. Go." I returned to the job site later to find the boss there, and he let me go on the spot for leaving the team. Without a supervisor, he knew what had happened and still fired me. I won't lie, That one kind of pissed me off. I had this happen once too, though they gave me 2 weeks severance when they did it. Turns out they weren't angry that I was leaving. They just had prior bad experiences with short-timer syndrome and didn't want the hassle, so they paid me as if I'd done the 2 weeks and sent me home immediately. Worked out fine for me. I got a 2-week paid vacation, since I wasn't starting the new job for 2 weeks anyway between jobs. For doing my job too quickly and sitting down the rest of the time. Gas station cashier, third shift. Me. Why should I stand when I'm the only person in the store? Manager. It's more professional to stand than sit. Me. Then why do you sit in your office? I never understood that. Not once have I walked into an establishment, seen an employee sitting and gone, wow, he's unprofessional. I literally don't give a FF, as long as you do your job. This isn't why I got fired, but this is why I didn't get a job. I was 16 and looking to work at a Dairy Queen as my first job. My mom drove me to the interview and I was super nervous. She looked me in the eye and said, "Just be honest and be yourself and you'll do fine." I walked into that interview and when he asked me, "How long do you think you'll work here?" I responded, "Until something better comes along." OMG. My parents had to coach me on how to get a job when I started hunting. They were wondering why none of the jobs I had applied to had called me back, so they started asking questions about the application process. Turns out you shouldn't be honest on those personality assessments, at least not to the extent I was. They basically told me to answer as if I was another person. I talked my way into a job at a software company when they put a hiring notice in a local paper. I had no idea what the software did. I still don't. They hired me as a trainer, and no one ever explained what the product was. I did a few weeks where I was trained on the software, but literally none of it ever made sense to me. It was like they were speaking gibberish. One day I showed up. A lady I had never seen before gave me a check and walked me out to the parking lot. No one even ever said, "You're fired," or anything. It's one of the strangest things that ever happened to me. Oh, I see they tried to teach you SAP. That reminds me of a time that I got escorted out early from a group interview. The company was a little suspicious altogether. The interviewer was even more sus because he was just wearing all black, polo and jeans, and was absolutely decked out in gold jewelry. Looked like he stepped out of a mob movie or something. I went to the emergency room instead of work. Came back with an ER note and they said, "We won't be needing that. Can you come with us?" I was 18 and it was my first full-time job. I had pneumonia and a doctor's note. Came back to work a week later wheezing and puffing an inhaler. Got fired the next week. Joke's on them. I still got unemployment benefits when they tried to fight it. Doctor's notes are good things. My parole officer wanted to make sure I actually had a job, so he went to my employer listed on my file to surprise visit me on the job. I did home wiring, so I worked at different job sites and rarely in the office. He called me to say he was going to charge me with a violation for lying to him about my whereabouts. This could have landed me back in prison for my remaining 10.5-year sentence. The owner of the company had to speak with him and vouch for me. My parole office didn't charge me, but the owner sure did fire me that day. Finding a job with a felony isn't an easy thing, and it wasn't long before my PO threatened to charge me with a violation if I didn't find a job soon. What a fiffing clown process. I'm sorry you went through that. I refused to come in 15 to 20 minutes early unpaid for my shift. I was always 5 to 10 minutes early, but they decided they wanted me there earlier. I carried on as normal as I'm not coming in if I'm not being paid. Turned up for a 12 p.m. shift at 11:49. No one would look at me when I arrived and was thrown in a meeting and fired for being late. Was out the door before it even hit 12. It was the only time I've ever been fired. I built a snow scorpion sculpture. I used ketchup for the red glowing eyes and everything on a particularly miserable day at a ski resort. The guests enjoyed my sculpture very much. Management weren't so happy. His wife thought he was having an affair with the office manager. He asked me if I thought it was possible that he was having an affair with the office manager. I said, "It's possible, but I don't think you are. I could see why your wife might think so too." I was 21 and naive as hell. Never should have said anything. He was 100% having an affair with the office manager. LOL. She knew too much. They sent me home because I sneezed and I was forced to get tested for COVID. Then when I tested negative, I was terminated for abusing pandemic policies to stay home. That has to be illegal in some form. We tried. A lot of people got canned for the same thing. It was anarchy during those times, and nobody is really able to verify that they acted in bad faith. I asked the CNA I was working with to stay with a confused patient, while I went and put a new 4 in another patient. The CNA left the patient alone. She fell out of bed and got a big bloody skin tear on her arm. After I took care of that, I went and found the CNA and told her the patient was injured because of her insubordination. The CNA cussed at me and left the unit. I did not see her again this shift. She and another CNA decided on their own to trade assignments. I wrote the CNA up. The CNA went to management and lied about me. She said I called her by a racial slur and yelled at her. I did neither. Management fired me rather than deal with a false claim of racism. I collected unemployment. The CNA did something similar with another nurse a couple of weeks later and was fired. My manager asked if I could be rehired. HR said no. When my manager quit to start her own nursing agency a year later, she hired me. I got fired for submitting my timesheets on Monday at 8 a.m. when I got into work. By policy, they were to be in by noon on Saturday, but my Fridays ended in the field, so I just did them on Monday mornings. My bosses didn't even look at them until noon on Tuesday, so it had zero impact on them. I drove home from being fired feeling relieved because of how unhappy I was at that job. Worked in a DIY store. 10 minutes before my shift ended, I moved a pallet cage of paint cans slowly to the warehouse, and when I got in there, one of the sides came off along with half of the paint cans, which spilled all over. Anyway, there was about 2 minutes of my shift left, so I moved the pallet over the paint, covering it a bit, and went home. It was all caught on CCTV. Most of the stories here are why I was unfairly fired. Yours is more fun. Because my job was eliminated. This was code for getting rid of you and hiring someone to replace you at half the salary. Their scheme was less than a stellar success because the person they hired was an idiot and could not do it. The customers got severely pissed. They gave me $15,000 severance if I promised not to sue them. I took their money and still sued them for age discrimination and won. Damn, this is a whole movie right here.
That's all for today. If you have any stories or experiences about being unfairly fired or know someone who does, share them in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great content and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching and see you next time.